the U.S. has certainly an important role, but it's not. I'm not sure how much influence it has at the end of the day when it comes to what Israel does next.
Let us now catch up with Zach Anders, who's a correspondent at Sderot, which is near the Gaza Strip. Hello to you, Zach. Welcome back to the program.
Hello, John. Thanks for having me.
Always good. Now, Zach, we've had some news, haven't we, in the last hour? Hezbollah, a commander, has been killed by an Israeli strike. Can you tell us more?
And by my count, going back through my notes, I started covering the north in November. We were very concerned that Hezbollah and Israel would escalate there. By my count, this is the 12th senior Hezbollah officer that's been killed since this conflict began. The IDF has released some of this information regarding the Hezbollah strike, some, not all. Unlike with the IRGC strikes, where it's been a little bit more vague on their part, today the IDF came right out and said that they were the ones that struck this vehicle and killed this, they're calling him a senior Hezbollah operative, Ismail Youssef Baz. He's the commander of Hezbollah's coastal sector, the IDF says. Where this kind of, to me, adds up is the conflict, and perhaps it escapes a lot of people with what's happening in Gaza, but this conflict in the north, Israel's north, has been somewhat contained to about 5 kilometers on either side of the border. Hezbollah has been striking within this range. The IDF has been striking within this range. There's been exceptions, but this is largely where the fighting has taken place over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And the amount of fire that the IDF has tried to, ease the Hezbollah threat or to push Hezbollah back, well, there's just not a lot of material or Hezbollah forces in that range. They moved themselves out of harm's way. So what the IDF has been doing has been trying to pick off the men who facilitate these rocket launches and are more of a command structure. And so that's what we've seen over the last 6 months. They've been targeting leaders.
All right, now just briefly, the Israeli cabinet met again earlier today. Did anything come out of that, or what might happen next? And this worry about a strike on Iranian nuclear facilities, presumably that's not top of the list of likely options.
Yeah, it's hard to say, and the War Cabinet has been split for a while, so when we get these leaks and hear that perhaps some ministers are incensed or are trying to find or push Netanyahu to a certain direction, that's been things that we've been hearing for months. So the one thing that did kind of stand out is that you get a lot of the members of Knesset have been beating the war drums quite a bit over the last 24 hours. The chair of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee said that he sincerely hopes that they're going to teach Iran a lesson. You can't just strike a sovereign country. So the support behind a serious strike within the Israeli government certainly seems there. Where that target is on Iranian soil, it's hard to say, but certainly one of the most effective ways you could undercut or really just if you zoom out, the way that you could save as many lives going forward as possible is if you were to strike Iranian drone production facilities. Yeah. That's been killing scores of civilians here in Israel's north and tenfold in Ukraine as well. The civilian count from those Shahed drones has been a disaster.
Okay. All right. Always good to talk to you, Zach. Zach Anders there at the Gaza Strip. Now let me get the thoughts of Robin Wright, who is a military analyst and a fellow at the U.S. Institute of Peace, live on the line from Washington, D.C. Hello, Robin.
Nice to be with you.
Thanks for coming and joining us. Robin, the White House, what is their thinking on this? Do they have a preferred form of retaliation? And what sort of leverage are they able to apply to Israel to try to get them to see things Joe Biden's way?
Well, Israel has proven time and again that it's willing to take its own decisions, whether it's in Gaza, in its prolonged response, or in surprising the United States in its strike on an Iranian diplomatic facility in Damascus. The United States has made certain things clear to Israel. First, that it is an ironclad commitment when it comes to its security, but they still have deep disagreements, for example, on Gaza. The United States would prefer if Israel showed some restraint, but this is not a moment that the United States has extraordinary influence, even as Israel is dependent on backup from the United States. What's really striking is that U.S. warplanes and warships took down 80 of the drones and 6 of the ballistic missiles. That's
Yeah.
like a quarter of what the Iranians fired. So the U.S. has certainly an important role, but it's not. I'm not sure how much influence it has at the end of the day when it comes to what Israel does next.
Right, that is actually an interesting answer. Now, most conversations end up with some reference to Donald Trump, don't they? I mean, as you understand it, how would Donald Trump, were he to ascend to the presidency, how would he affect and change U.S. policy in this area?
I have no idea, John. I cover foreign wars. I try, even though I live in Washington, to distance myself from American divisions.
Well, that's a perfectly clear answer. I think part of the answer is we don't know what Donald Trump would do in given situations when it comes to global strategy. But Vladimir Putin, he has intervened too and spoken to the president of Iran. Apparently, we're told by Russian media calling for restraint. Is that a significant development?
Well, it's an interesting development. I think one of the most important things to understand is the kind of international unity there was among the world's 6 major powers in 2015 in negotiating a nuclear deal with Iran. That no longer exists. The major powers are now taking sides. And you saw that demonstrated at the UN Security Council on Sunday at an emergency session where the United States and its Western allies were all condemning Iran, supporting Israel, and calling for more punitive actions against Tehran. In contrast, both the Russian and Chinese ambassadors had strong words for Israel, claiming that it had provoked the Iranian response by its initial strike on an Iranian diplomatic facility in Syria. And so the danger is there is no longer a single course for international cooperation when it comes to preventing this crisis from escalating into a wider Middle East war.
All right, Robin Wright, thank you. Hopefully we can talk again soon. That's Robin Wright at the U.S. Institute of Peace in Washington.